Hi, hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be recapping my May reads. So I'm filming this a little early. I'm filming this on Friday the 29th instead of waiting till Sunday the 30th. So I do have a couple days that I can be reading and hopefully finishing a book. But for the most part, this is a recap of everything that I've read in the month of May. Okay, so the first book that I finished in the month of May was Caught Up. This one is by Liz Tomforty. It's the third book in her Windy City series. So in this one, we're following Kai and Miller, and it is a single dad nanny romance. Kai is a baseball player, and so he's traveling a lot. He's a single dad, and Miller is actually the daughter of the coach. And so he says to Kai, hey, my daughter's not doing anything right now. She's taking a break from being like a professional chef. And so he decides, my daughter's going to be your nanny. She's going to travel with us. It'll be great. And I actually really like this one a lot more than I thought I would. I gave it 5 stars. In retrospect, it probably could have been like a 4.75, but like I'm not really that picky. I really enjoyed the found family aspects in this one. I feel like every book we get more peeks into the other characters. Whereas like in the first one, we're really just getting Xander and Evie. And as much as I loved Evie and like Xander's character development throughout the book, I was really just not a fan of like the whole like thing. Like Xander was kind of icky in the beginning. It felt like he was kind of like rude to everybody, like even people he considered his friends. But now that we're, kind of like getting more into it, like I'm halfway through the series, we have 2 more. It sets up for the next book really, really well because we are getting so much of like Kai and the baseball players since it follows different sports each book. And the next book, I believe, I believe it's his brother, which is another baseball player. So kind of exciting for that one. And then we're also seeing, like the past couples. And I think that as they are maturing, it's getting a lot better. So really enjoyed this one. The conflict made sense, but it was also one of those things where like they knew this was going to be a conflict from the get-go. I don't know why they acted like it was a huge deal. Like they just knew that their like little relationship was only going to be for a certain set amount of time. So I don't really understand why they made it like a huge deal, but oh well, it worked out. I thought it was really cute. I really enjoyed, like I said, all the found family aspects in it. I really like Miller. Miller was super fun. So 5 stars, maybe 4.75, but still, I think this is my favorite in the series so far. So the second book that I picked up in the month of May was A Serial Killer's Guide to San Francisco. This one I gave 4 stars. Overall, I did enjoy it. I was not as invested as I was hoping to be is my main problem. In this one, I'm following Capri, and she is a true crime tour guide in San Francisco. Her grandfather actually was like arrested and charged with the murders of multiple like sex workers in the area back in the day. So Capri has some ties to true crime stories in the area. But she makes her living, doing these tours. She does virtual tours, she does walking tours, she does bus tours. Like she's just doing all kinds of tours because she owns her own like true crime tour company, which I thought was super fun. And so in this book, we're following her as like someone that she is like relatively close to. It's her ex mother-in-law is found murdered in the exact same way that her grandfather was murdering people. And she's actually the second person to die that way. And so all of a sudden, all eyes are on Capri. And where I think that the story loses me is instead of Capri trying to prove that she's innocent or her daughter's innocent or like anyone else is like innocent, she instead decides, I'm going to actually prove that my grandfather is innocent, that he didn't commit those murders that he is like charged with committing all those years ago. And like her grandfather's long passed, like he passed away of old age in prison. And so it just didn't make a lot of sense to me why she would spend so much time clearing her grandfather's name and like trying to prove that he didn't do it when like, girl, the cops still think you're a murderer. Like maybe that's selfish of me, but if I was a suspect for murder, I would want to prove that I didn't do anything because I didn't. Like it was very obvious that she wasn't the killer, but she was doing nothing to like prove that it wasn't her. It was literally all like trying to prove her grandfather was innocent, and therefore she couldn't have like the killer gene or whatever. And I just didn't like buy that. It was very interesting. And then who it ended up actually being, I thought it was that person from the get-go. I thought that that was pretty predictable. Like if you're a true crime girly, you get it. And so it was pretty predictable. It wasn't as twisty and turny as I was hoping it was going to be. It was like pretty straightforward actually. But I am very excited that this has sequels. Because even though I didn't like Capri's actions and I wouldn't have done what she did, I liked Capri as a character. She was really cute. She was really fun, really witty. And her and the main, like, detective guy on the case, super cool guy. Like, I actually really liked them together. I thought they had like a cute little, like, not good cop bad cop dynamic, but it was kind of like giving like all of those like cop shows from the early 2000s where it was like straight lace hard cop with like a funny goofy guy. Like, it was giving that. And so I really enjoyed that. I found out there's actually two other books in the series. So inadvertently started a new series, but I'm okay with that. And I will probably pick up the second book in this later. I'm not 100% sure what it's going to focus on, but I am a little bit glad that it's going to not have her grandfather being a killer as one of the elements, just because I do think that that overall was like the biggest like downfall of this story is it was so focused on her grandfather, which like I just wasn't invested in that. I didn't really care. So I'm hoping that the next book, hopefully we'll solve a different murder. So that'll be super fun. I look forward to it. Like I said, I gave this one 4 stars. So the next book that I picked up from our TBR was The Wolf King, which I actually picked up a copy of because I was enjoying it that much. I read it on Kindle, but I absolutely adore it. I am obsessed with this book. I gave it 5 stars. I would give it 6 stars if I could. So in this book, we are following our main character, Aurora, who is a princess. And right before she's set to get married, she ends up being involved in these like wolves fighting. Like, werewolves are a thing in this world. And so she ends up like watching this like fighting happen. She doesn't agree with it. And she ends up kind of like having a soft spot for one of the wolves. So she goes down to the like dungeon area where they keep them and like helping to like heal him a little bit and trying to like do her best to like make him feel better after his fight. And she ends up like not only conversing with them, but like kind of like talking to them. They get chit chatting. She kind of like learns what they like have planned, and they actually like escape that night, these wolves that are in the dungeon for these fights. And so they escape that night. They take her with them, and it kind of goes from there. They go to like their werewolf colony, I guess. I don't really like know how to like explain their society, but they take her away from what she's used to, her world, her kind of like kingdom, and they go to the area where the wolves kind of live, and she's terrified. And then she learns, oh, these wolves are just normal people. Like, they're normal. And so she ends up getting kind of like involved in their like wolf hierarchy, because there is a wolf king and then there's other alphas kind of like under him. And so she kind of learns the politics of the world, lots of political intrigue in this one. So if you like the like world building and the like weird political rules and like how things should be, like, you would find this fascinating because I absolutely loved it. And the ending was crazy. I was obsessed with the ending. I did not love our MMC. I don't think he's going to be a book boyfriend of mine. I think the male main character is a little too much of a golden retriever for me to like personally love him. But we also have another character who like takes over that kind of like broody, dark, black cat energy kind of character. And I enjoyed him a lot more than I thought I was going to, because he's kind of annoying. But he's not a love interest, I don't think. I hope not. I don't want her to get with him. But I absolutely loved Aurora. I liked her character development. I really enjoyed like kind of just like how the book is set up. I thought that it was super well done. I'm super excited to pick up the second book in the series because it is the first in a trilogy. So hopefully I can pick up the second book like in a couple of months. And I think the third one's going to come out later this fall. So very excited for that. Overall, 5 stars for this one. I really liked it. Okay, the next book that I picked up was Redemption. So in this one, we're following our female main character, Kat, and her sisters actually inherit their like ranch that they live on from their father after he passes away. Kind of unexpected, but she is, trying to like figure out how to get the ranch up and going without her dad. She doesn't really know a ton about like how to manage a ranch. Her dad was supposed to teach her, but he died before he could. And so Kat is trying to like piece together like how to get everything kind of like situated and run the ranch. And she's taking care of her sisters because Kat is the oldest of 5 girls. And so one day she wakes up and there's someone knocking at her door, and it is Jack, our MMC, and he's actually the person who killed her mom. And she can't figure out why he would be there. And turns out he killed her mom in a drunk driving accident. He was driving under the influence through like the backcountry roads in the middle of the night. and her mom went for like a late night run. And so that's kind of how they end up in this predicament. Jack ends up going to jail, doing his time. But while he was in jail, Kat's dad was actually visiting him and going to his like weekly visitations and, talking to him, like letting him know, hey, when you get out, like I have a cabin on my land. You can go ahead and work at my ranch and live in this cabin. And they had kind of like a little bit of a deal kind of set up for Jack to be reintegrated into society because Kat's dad knew, like, hey, the town already views you as like a bad guy. So I'm going to help you like be successful. And so it's a little bit forbidden in that way of like, Kat doesn't really want to like Jack. Jack probably shouldn't like Kat, but like he's heard so much from Kat's dad about how Kat just is as a person. So he feels like he like knows her and connects her and like really respects her. And then Kat is completely blindsided because she had no idea that her dad was in communications with Jack. She had no clue that any of this was happening. She didn't realize that Jack had kind of, changed his ways and was reformed from how he was in his youth. But overall, I did really enjoy it. I ended up giving it a 4-star just because I was not obsessed with how quickly Kat's sisters got over everything with Jack. It felt like 3 of the 5 sisters like forgave Jack within like a day. Like he literally got back to town and they were like, you know what? If our dad liked you, we like you. And it's like, okay, I respect it. But also like 3 of the 5, like there's only 2 people in this house that are going to hold a grudge on your mom's killer. Like, I don't know. It was a little bit icky to me. And I did like the character development by the end, but it felt like a lot of the middle was just Kat being like, but we can't be together. And then Jack being like, but we could. And then Kat saying, but we can't. And like that was a lot of it. And I am excited for the sequel. It kind of does like, again, another start of a series. We started like 10 series this month and I didn't even know it. But it does set up really well for Kat's best friend. Her best friend is leaving an abusive marriage. And so we get to see kind of like insights of like how that is going for her and like how she's, like leaving her husband and kind of like coming back to her small town. And so that's kind of how it sets up for the sequel, which I'm pretty excited for. I believe it comes out later this summer. So we shall see. But yes, overall, 4 stars for this one. The next book that I picked up in the month of May was Thrown in the Dark. I actually really, really liked it. In this one, we're following Damien and Amma. So Damien is actually a like half demon trying to free his father from this like rock that he's basically like stuck in. I fully imagined it like in Ella Enchanted, how one of the characters' boyfriends is like a literal book. And so it's just his like little face on like a book and she can talk to him. That's fully what I imagine Damien's dad being like. He's stuck in this rock. And so Damien has this like elaborate plan to free his dad. And as he's like about to go about doing it and freeing his father, Amma, who's like a little thief, like a petty thief, she tries to steal something from Damien and accidentally touches something that he needs to like complete his little mission. And by touching it, she like absorbs its power and basically has to come with him to wherever the heck he's going so that way they can like do this mission to complete and free his dad like fully. So Alma gets fully roped into it. I absolutely loved it. So in this one, like I said, they're kind of like reluctant allies to lovers, so they have to work together. It's grumpy sunshine for sure because Damien is super doom and gloom and super sad. Alma is happy, bubbly, bright, obnoxious. Like they're having like the best time. There's obviously demons because Damien is a half demon. So we are also having death horses and imps. And I believe one of the characters is like related to a giant or something, like a like large person. And so we had a lot of like other fantasy characters that are not usually like front and center in a lot of these books. Usually it's like fae and like things related to fae, which like there were, but like a lot of these characters are more like dark and nooky spooky fantasy characters. Damien can do blood magic, whereas Amma comes from a place where the trees can do magic. So the stuff that's like made out of the wood like becomes magical and can do stuff if you like ask it to do things for you. And like that was a super interesting part of their magic system. Almost keeping like a pretty big secret for most of the book. And by the time it gets revealed, like it makes a lot of sense. And I'm like, wasn't surprised. But like it also was like, wow, like that was a good twist. Because like it ends up being a thing where like Damien obviously has to kind of like complete his mission, but Amma's, side quest that she was on before pickpocketing him is a little bit more important. So I really enjoyed this one. Like I said, 5 stars. I do already own the sequel, so I could, in theory, pick up the sequel for this later this month. But this is such a beefy, chunky boy. So that's probably not going to happen. The next book that I picked up in the month of May was Hot Wax by ML Rio. And in this one, we are following Suzanne as she kind of runs from her past. Her father passes away, and she's kind of left reminiscing on this summer that she spent with him when she was like 10 years old. I believe it's in 1989. When she turns 10 and she tours with him and his band. We're getting flashbacks of that summer. We're also getting bits of the present. And then the author also included some snapshots of other times. So we're able to see, like what exactly happened that summer, what led to Suzanne and her dad like having almost no real relationship. But then we're also seeing snapshots of what got Suzanne to where she is today. So we see, like her wedding. We see when she like left home for the first time. We see her, when she worked her first ever job in New York. And then we also see when her parents met, because Suzanne's parents did not have like the greatest relationship since her dad was always, like trying to make it in the music scene and make it in the music industry. And so overall, I really enjoyed this one. Like I said, I gave it 4.5 stars. I think everything about the writing was done extremely well. I mean, it's ML Rio, so I wouldn't expect it to not be written well. And I think that everything like flowed. Like there wasn't a detail that she included that did not circle back around. Like there was no extra like weird like information that we like weren't sure what to do with. There were no loose ends to like tie up. Like I feel like it all just like flowed so well and it all made so much sense. And like in the present day, obviously Suzanne, inherits her dad's stuff and she's just over here like, what was he doing? Like this doesn't make any sense. So she ends up fixing up this like big van that he'd had like her whole childhood and, taking it like on a bit of a road trip with a couple of people that she meets that, run like a little online vintage store and are really into going to flea markets and really just like living kind of off the grid. Like they don't have a ton of money. They're not really like flush for cash. They're living out of a camper. And so like her and this like ragtag little group kind of form like the closest thing that Suzanne has had to a family. We see that because of everything that happened with Suzanne's dad when she was a kid, she doesn't really do like long-term connections with people. She has commitment issues for sure. But we can see like how this is like healing that and like fixing that and making her feel like comfortable to unwind with people. The only thing that I did not love about this book is I was waiting for there to be a little bit more drama. Like I felt like there was like always a build up. Like every time we get a flashback chapter, we would hear about her dad with some of his bandmates, or we would hear about, like two different characters and how they kind of like clash. It was mostly her dad and the bandmates. And I was just waiting for something like really terrible to happen. And like the really terrible thing that ends up happening and like the bad thing, it obviously happened in the past. So Suzanne was too little to like be involved in it, but it wasn't nearly as harsh as I was expecting. I was like on the edge of my seat waiting for this to be like wild, crazy, like blood sacrifice for demons, Jennifer's body type shit. And it was like, no. It was like kind of calm. So maybe I just built up an expectation in my head of what crazy thing could happen in this book. But like I was waiting for something like absolutely like earth shattering to happen. And it just was one of those things where it was like, oh, okay, like, yeah, that makes sense. But it could have been worse. But yes, overall 4.5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this one. I definitely would read more set in like this kind of world. I know that ML Rio's other book that I absolutely love, And Then We Were Villains, that one's set at like a Shakespeare college. And as much as I enjoyed that book and do give it 5 stars just because like the twist in it is done so well, I did not love the Shakespeare college aspect. I liked this. It was kind of dark, it was kind of gritty, it was kind of like raw and real. And I think that that made this one like a more like real world kind of application. Whereas like Shakespeare College, yeah, those exist, but like I'm not going there. Like she's talking about going to flea markets, and I'm over here like, yes, I know what you're talking about. So I think that this one just gave a different look at humanity than her previous book. And even though I wasn't obsessed with the ending, I did still really enjoy it. So now we are getting to the last book that I finished in the month of May, and that was Wrecked by Lauren Asher. So in this one, we are following Jax, and his PR manager, Alina. And so they're entering kind of this like relationship for work where she needs to kind of follow him around, babysit him, make sure he's not, partying, doing these bad boy things that he's kind of like notoriously known for doing. And Jax is kind of spiraling. His two best friends that have been like his little trio of guys, his whole F1 career, they both have girlfriends. He is over here experiencing like the worst anxiety of his life. He just started taking Xanax to like help him with his anxiety because he had a panic attack on the road. And it's not helping. He's literally just taking Xanax and then drinking, which you're not supposed to do. And so Jax is just doing like not good things and having really destructive behaviors. So then Alina comes around and is trying to kind of like babysit him really, but like also correct his behaviors and get him to like open up to someone. Like is Elena's idea for the F1 team to bring in a therapist for Jax and his other driver. And then it was also Elena's idea for them to, like summer with his parents and like hang out with his parents and, use the time with his parents that he has. One thing that I did find very interesting about this book is so I have the indie copy. It's not the trad published version by Bloom. It's literally from like Lauren Asher. And the audiobook that I got is also the indie version. But I was reading it on my Kindle for part of it, and there were some weird little things that they changed that at the end of the day don't really matter, but they kind of did. So Jax is biracial, he's British, and there's a whole like through line of how like Jax's mom had a really hard time getting like her family's approval to be with Jax's dad. And so he doesn't have a ton of family because his grandparents did not approve of his mom's relationship with his dad. And his dad is a famous boxer, and so they make that what her parents had an issue with. Like they make that why he doesn't have a ton of family around. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, boxing's kind of like a lucrative career, and like some people don't really agree with like fighting for money. But I don't know anyone who's cut off their whole family because of box. Like that sounds really intense. Whereas like, yeah, racism, yep, that happens. People cut people off because they're racist. And so it was just kind of like a weird choice to have made. Another change that was like, again, really small, but like kind of made a big impact on the story overall is that in the book, it is Jax's mom's birthday. But in the new updated version that I had on Kindle, like the trad published one, it's Jax's actual birthday. And so Elena is watching a movie that reminds her of like a really traumatic event that happened to her. And she starts having a panic attack. And Jax like leaves to like calm her down, which like was cute, was sweet, was romantic because he has panic attacks too. So then they talk about their anxiety together. And so like it was like a good bonding moment. But like it made more sense for it to be on his mom's birthday than to be on his birthday. I don't know. I just thought that it was like really like awkward and weird. So yeah, those are my like biggest like issues with just like the copies that I was reading, that like it kind of almost told a bit of a different story. And then my other big qualm is obviously they're like in a workplace setting, and like because Elena's his PR manager, so like she is supposed to be like keeping it professional. Their boss, the owner of the F1 team, knows that they're in a relationship together and is okay with it. But the second that Jack starts like acting out of line again, he does something to like make Elena not like him anymore. He like wants to end it with her, but he wants it to be her idea. So he does something to make her break up with him. And immediately Elena's job is on the line. And like as an earth sign, Elena was a Virgo. She's an earth sign. We don't mess around. So like the idea of her like knowing he purposely did something to make her look bad at her job and she still took him back. I was like, dang girl, you crazy. You crazy. That's wild. Because I would never. But yeah, so they do have a third act breakup in this that I thought was done pretty well, all things considered. I just wouldn't have taken him back, was my problem. Because the other thing is that like Elena ends up, leaving, and she goes back to like where she's like been living. She lives in Monaco. He's in London. Jax's mom is the one that gets them back together. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean your mom came to talk to your girlfriend? To like, hey, Jax is stupid. Come be with him again. I didn't like that. I really hated that. So yeah, overall, like I liked it. I think that Jax and Elena together made sense, but I don't think that he did anything to be forgiven to the degree that he was. Like, I just was like, girl, you're really taking that loser back? Really? So yeah, I think I just didn't agree with the crime didn't match the punishment. Like, he did something really, really bad to make her break up with him. And then his mom said, he's really sorry. And that didn't sit right with me. He like did nothing. He did no graveling. He did no like apology tour. He did nothing. So I wish that he had done more to earn Elena's forgiveness back. I think that was my big thing. And like I said, I'm filming this pretty early, so I still have the next couple of days to finish another book. So I started Weather Girl last night, and I'm about 5 chapters in. Yes, yeah, I'm 50 pages in. So overall, I'm really enjoying this one. We are following our main character, Ari, who's a weather girl, and her and the sportscaster, Russell, decide to team up and get their bosses to be happy again together. They were married and then they got divorced a couple years ago. And so now they're still at the same news station, but like they're making each other's lives kind of miserable because they aren't happy together. Like they're divorced. They're bitter that the other person stayed at the news station with them, and so they're trying to like get the other to like quit or leave or something. So Ari and Russell decide, well, they were happy once, like we should try to get them back together so they can be happy again. And like that has all already like started to unfold. They literally just came up with their little plan to kind of like trick them into thinking that they're, like running into each other or like getting stuck in an elevator together or like something to like spark up old memories. And so far, I actually really like Ari. The plot of this movie reminds me of Set It Up. And I can't help but imagine that the actress that plays the female character in that movie as Ari. Like, I just feel like she and that girl gave off like the same vibe. Like, they're super bright, they're super bubbly, they're cutesy. Ari does like battle depression and anxiety, and the author was very upfront about how like she wanted to give that like an accurate portrayal. And I think so far she has, because Ari's been going through some shit, like low key. Like her fiance just dumped her. She's like having her brother take her to work and stuff because she doesn't have like a reliable vehicle right now. They get a billboard. I feel like actually a little bit bad for Ari, but they get a billboard in like a really prime location, and a bird pooped on Ari's face on the billboard. So she's the only one that like her face is covered in bird poop. So I do feel bad about that. But overall, I do think it's a pretty accurate and good depiction of mental health struggles. And I think that Ari is just like a super cute character. I'm really excited to see how this book goes, how it ends. Because like I said, I'm really only like 50 pages in. So I have quite a ways to go. So here are all the books that I read in the month of May. That's crazy to think that May is already winding down, coming to an end. But here are all the books that we read in the month of May. Overall, it was a great reading month. If you made it to the end of the video, leave the umbrella emoji for Weather Girl, and I will catch you guys in the next one real soon. Bye. Okay. Ready? Yeah. Okay. Hi, hello, and welcome to our YouTube channel. In today's video, the camera's crooked. Okay, that looks a little better. Hi, hello, and welcome to today's video. No, that's not what I say. I'm filming this a little early because, what was I going to say? And it's the third book in her witty? So in this one, we are following, oh God, what's her name? I do not think he's going to be a book because he could be my book boyfriend and he could be me. That's how that works. This one is by Lila Dawes. Yes, Jack ends up going to jail. Hi, Pippa. Pippa. Okay. Damon obviously has, you call him Damon, it's Damien. Where Damon on me by R.L. Rio. R.L. Rio, who's that? And so we're getting flashbacks of the like present. There was no weird like hanging loose strings. That's words. It's not like the trad published version. There we go. So I have quite a while. I should really start picking these out before the very end of the video, is what we've learned. I'm just going to refilm this whole bit.